Although I am not a religious person, that does not stop me from asking the same questions that most people ask. What is life about, and do we survive in some other form after death? When we die, does our soul turn into energy, where we were able to move about the universe by thought alone? Most religions and other belief systems throughout the centuries claim that we are immortal, that when our physical body dies, our soul lives on, where we are no longer limited by our physical body. The following amazing story is about an Italian medium called Marcello Bacci, who is able to source this energy or soul using his gift of mediumship and communicate with the deceased using nothing more than a shortwave radio. Marcello Bacci. Bacci was born in Grosseto, Italy, and is a leading expert in the experimentation of voices, where he is able to communicate with the deceased using a radio. Bacci is free from any religious dogmas or cultural pressures and keeps an open mind. Although Bacci is a medium, he does not go into a trance, but uses his psychic power via his radio. In his long years of experimental work, Bacci has tested various methods and many technical devices. Over many decades, he has been communicating with the other side using an old Normandy valve radio. With his gift of mediumship and a simple shortwave radio, Bacci is able to talk to people who have passed over. Over the years, many people have attended his sessions where deceased people are able to communicate with their living family, yet there appears to be no rational explanation. The radio. Bacci uses white noise from his shortwave radio, where he can spin the dial from right to left and the voices of the deceased appear. In his experiments, Bacci tunes his radio to the shortwave band in a frequency ranging between 7 and 9 megahertz. After waiting for 10 to 20 minutes, the existing background noise disappears and an acoustic signal comes out of the loudspeaker. After a short period of silence, a dialogue opens up, continuously changed by rotating the tuning control knob during the reception of the paranormal voices. An experiment took place on December the 5th, 2004 in Bacci's laboratory, where 1 hour after the commencement of the voices, and while they were still talking, the radio receiver's 5 valves were all removed. Despite the absence of the valves, the voices continued to speak with volume and clarity. This phenomenon persisted for over 2 minutes, even after Bacci switched off the radio.
We would like to ask the question of the appearance of your space.
I can't really answer that.
The above experiment provided convincing evidence of communications with the other side in that once the phenomena commences, the radio ceases to function as a normal radio receiver. The radio appears to become a device, psychically supported, through which the paranormal voices can be heard. Bacci performs monthly experiments in the presence of many people, mainly parents who are hoping to establish contact with their deceased children, and he never asks for money or other kinds of financial incentive. The disembodied voices are not continuous but interspersed with pauses. They last for varying lengths of time, from a minimum of 10 seconds to a maximum of 3 to 4 minutes. Sometimes transmission ends with a heavenly choir. Each experimental session lasts about 40 to 60 minutes. The end of each experiment is devoted to personal contacts between deceased young people and their parents who attend their experiment. Young people's communications are an attempt to reassure their parents of their survival in another dimension, in their new state of existence, which represents the most convincing evidence of the authenticity of the phenomena. On most occasions, a voice will inform the parents of the presence of their deceased loved ones, and at other times their child directly communicates pronouncing his or her name. On many occasions, the deceased voices are immediately recognised by their parents. These voices can be male or female, youthful or adult, depending upon the circumstances. The impact is immediate. Those who listen to their name coming from the radio are astonished, literally captivated. Communicating. The following experiments demonstrate the mediumship abilities of Bachi, as the paranormal contacts happen only when he is present. When Bachi has been absent, some of his friends had tried to establish contact by operating the same radio, but without any results. This demonstrated that the radio would not operate unless someone with mediumship or psychic abilities was present. The invisible voices that Bachi is able to communicate with affirm that they are spiritual beings, where all of the communications reveal the presence of intelligent beings, with varying voice characteristics, with each communicating their own personality. These voices from the other side dealt with varied topics where Bachi only occasionally asked questions. The paranormal voices always showed sensitive responses and expressed words of comfort to the individual who was trying to communicate with the loved one that had passed over. The messages that were received provided the parents with direct evidence of the continuity of life after death, which in most of the cases was with their deceased children. The entities on the other side would address the grieving parents with warm words of deep understanding, giving reassurance to those who doubted. The following are an example of the reassuring words given to the parents and other audience members. Message number 1. Dear mothers, your loved ones suffer only if you are suffering. A day will come where the mysteries will be disclosed to you. The haze will dissipate and all of you will be embraced by a clear light. One day you'll leave your body and reach another order of being. Message number 2. Even for the non-believers, this spirit can talk. Death is a transition. Here we live in another dimension. Restore your heart. Where I am, there is light. Message number 3. On this occasion, an unknown communicator introduced himself as a citizen of the next world and said, "Here is life after death. There is another dimension, another life. Remember, the spirit will transform your mortal body into a spiritual body. Your body will become spirit." Message number 4. We live on. There are hills and green meadows. There is life. We are all fine. Message number 5. Existence becomes perfect. Human nature will become transformed and injustice will disappear. Message number 6. Evolution will follow, where death becomes a new life, until the mystery door is reached. The ultimate goal of these transmissions was to help people in the understanding of the afterlife. From the many communications that were received, the following were some of the recurrent themes found within the information conveyed by the voices from the other side, after they had passed over. Astonishment about their new surroundings. Time no longer existed. Unbelievable speed. Perception of endless space and timeless environment. Messages to the parents. One woman describes hearing her son's voice on Bachi's radio and getting the shock of her life, where she was able to hear her son's actual voice. She said she knew it was his voice. The deceased person would first ask for their mother's name and then announce their own name for verification. One mother said that her life ended when her son died, but when she was again able to communicate with him in spirit, after verifying that it really was her son, it was his distinct voice with his own intonations, she said her life could begin again. The following is an incredible story that was backed up by scientific evidence, where a woman called Chiara Lindsay had died tragically young, and when a voice came across Baci's radio, an audio expert called Paolo Pedesi from Il Laboratorio, with software equipment endorsed by the FBI, used Voiceprint analysis, and like a fingerprint, a Voiceprint is unique. It can then identify a person's voice with near certainty. They were then able to verify a Voiceprint from 2 audio samples, where one was from Chiara Lindsay when she was alive, and the other sample came from Baci's radio after she had died. This was witnessed by her father. They then compared the 2 voices using voice wave comparisons, coming up with a 97% match, concluding that it was almost certainly the same young woman on the radio, and she was communicating from the other side. Summing up, how did Baci manage to communicate with a timeless dimension where the other side was able to actually talk to our space-time? When we talk in our reality, we are physically able to use vowels and consonant sounds via our larynx, as this is our normal process to communicate with each other. The communication channels from the other side have to pass through 2 different continua. The first one is timeless and spaceless, and the second one is our space-time. To be able to transmit words, the entity sending its message from the other side and the person receiving this message must be placed within the same continuum. So, how did the dead manage to talk to the living through this amazing method of communication? It appears that Baci is able to connect our physical plane to the higher planes of consciousness, where one day it is hoped that this form of communication will be like speaking on a phone, and the life-death barrier will be broken down and we can communicate with the deceased. If you're enjoying this video, don't forget to hit like. It really helps to keep the channel growing. And if you're new here, subscribe and tap the bell icon so you never miss our latest videos. We've got lots of strange and fascinating stories coming up, and we'd love to have you along for the journey. We have searched the net looking for what we consider to be the most authentic ghost, poltergeist activity, or things that cannot be explained that were captured on film. Although it is easy to fake many films, the following footage appears to be authentic, but you be the judge. Many of the images were captured on CCTV, which is preferable to someone holding a camera, as CCTV is a bit harder to fake. So be prepared to be spooked. The following is footage of 12 incidents that we'd well consider to be authentic ghosts and poltergeists caught on film. Number 12. Oklahoma Wreckage Yard Ghost. The following footage was captured by CCTV and took place at the Puckett Auto Storage Lot in Oklahoma. Not exactly the sort of environment that you would find a ghost. Workers were checking for a possible intruder and were looking at the CCTV for any evidence, and viewed something that would have both bamboozled and terrified them.
Actually, there wasn't nobody back there. The wind was still that night. Our alarm was on, so nobody jumped the fence back there.
You can see clearly a white form wandering around the cars and appears to be searching for something. This wrecker's yard would have received many vehicles that were involved in fatal accidents, and maybe it is the spirit looking for something it lost in the accident. There appears to be no explanation for what this could be, and even some skeptics would be scratching their heads in this one. What do you think?
3 vehicles on the lot that night were involved in fatal accidents. A paranormal investigator says it's possible the mysterious figure could have been one of those spirits searching for its car.
Number 11. Poltergeist, an English bar. This is another interesting CCTV footage taken at an English bar, and clearly shows a woman on a mobile phone, whilst behind her you can see some papers on a stool slowly being pushed to the floor. As it appears to be done in 2 movements, it discounts any sudden gust of wind. A short time later, the woman appears to be under attack and ducks for cover, trying to get away from whatever is haunting her. Staff at the bar complained of taps being turned on and toilets flushing by themselves. Lights would flicker on and off, and footsteps were heard in an empty bar. The CCTV footage also shows orbs flashing around different parts of the building. Number 10. Ghostly shape trying to jump into woman's bed. We found this image really disturbing, and was filmed by the woman who was constantly being startled awake by noises in her bedroom at night. She set up a camera to try and catch what could be causing all of the commotion. The following day, she reviewed the tape, hoping to solve the noisy mystery, and what she captured was something that looked both creepy and terrifying. This woman had no children or pets, but the image clearly shows some sort of creature, or maybe an incubus, which is a male demon who, according to mythological and legendary traditions, lies upon sleeping women. This creature is desperately trying to get into bed with the woman, but falls backwards each time. After viewing that footage, did that woman ever sleep in that bed or room again? Number 9. Screaming in hotel room 209 in Wingate Hotel, Illinois. I am sure many of you have seen this footage, but I found this quite frightening and convincing and felt I had to include it in my ghostly selection. Again, it is CCTV footage, so it would have been difficult to fake. Guests at the hotel were complaining about a constant screaming coming from room 209, so security decided to check it out.
There's no one shaking the roof. There should be nobody in there.
Keep in mind that the hotel room was vacant and had no history of violence or murder. When security arrives, you can clearly hear the screaming from outside the room, and security is advised to wait for police backup, but he decided to go in by himself anyway. As he entered the room, you can clearly see some sort of ghostly shape leave the room, and then the screaming immediately stops. Security reported that all of the furniture had been turned upside down and the carpet had been ripped up, with the shower running by itself. What do you think? Number 8. Poltergeist at Northern Ireland School. The following CCTV footage seems to be classic poltergeist activity, and starts with a massive bang and then shows a chair being sent careering through the corridor and then crashing into another chair. Moments after, a school bag falls from a locker onto the floor. A display board flies off the wall and onto the floor before another chair, right in front of the CCTV cameras, moves to the other side of the room. The video was recorded on Thursday, October the 26th, 2017. just after 5:30 a.m. Maybe it was all of the collective energy from the children that had built up over the school day and was released in one giant burst. Or maybe an angry deceased student taking out his anger on the school. Number 7. Ghost in a window. The following footage was someone innocently taking footage of an airport and casually swings the camera around to catch the really creepy footage of someone or something observing them from a window and then disappears. The image had long hair and its head made strange movements and did not look like a normal person just staring out of the window. The image had obviously given off enough energy to make the CCTV spin around to try and film whatever had triggered its senses. I found this very, very scary. Number 6. Poltergeist in Bar and Grill. The following CCTV footage was taken in October 2013 in Jimmy's World Grill and Bar in Luton, England, and shows a woman casually getting up after finishing a meal and walking out. What happens next is classic poltergeist activity. You first notice the serviette, followed by the plate, then some cutlery fly off the table. This got the attention of another customer who casually turns around, sees nothing, and then turns back to talk to a friend. An interesting question would be whether the owner checked all of its CCTV footage for other signs of activity, and whether this was a regular occurrence at the restaurant. Number 5. Carlisle Castle Hotel, Newtown, Sydney, Australia. This well-known footage also had to be included in the unexplainable. It appears to be poltergeist activity causing havoc in a Sydney pub. What is interesting about this footage is that it takes place in front of the guests when glasses fly off the shelves and bottles of wine are pulled out of their racks. When the owner decided to check the footage, it not only shows the glasses and bottles flying around, but also shows some sort of apparition in the restaurant. As a strange adage to this story, the owner claims that whenever the wine is pulled from the racks, it's always the red wine bottles. Number 4. Haunting in Malaysian Hotel. The following security footage is absolutely terrifying and shows a woman under some sort of paranormal attack. The footage initially shows a lounge chair moving by itself, followed by a door violently slamming. The next piece of footage shows a woman sitting in an empty room with tables and chairs, talking on a mobile phone, when suddenly one of the chairs moves. And as she jumps up in shock, she trips over another chair and falls to the floor. But it doesn't end there. She is now trapped in a corner, and as she tries to escape, objects are then moved into her path, pushing her back into the corner. At this stage, the woman appears to be in total shock and falls to the floor. Number 3. Haunted home. The following person claims that they were so sick of the hauntings in their house, they decided to film all of the events as evidence. The disturbance usually starts out as scratching noises and then progresses to running footsteps and loud bangs. All of the disturbances then started coming from different areas, all at the same time. The next day, he filmed footage of his TV rocking from side to side by itself and looks as if it's about to go crashing to the floor. The footage clearly shows the man waving his hand around the set to show that there are no wires attached around the TV. Number 2. Ghost in the courtyard window. The footage was taken in the UK and shows 2 young men throwing a ball in the courtyard when one of them films a pale face of a man staring at them from an upstairs window. This strange face staring down at them does not look normal. When it realizes it's been seen, it very slowly eases itself out of view. They report this creepy scene to the property manager, who advises them that the room is not only empty, but it is locked and has been for quite some time. Now that their curiosity has been stirred, they then go up to the empty room with the manager to have a look around. And of course, the room is totally empty. Although the ghostly image looks absolutely convincing, this could easily be faked with everyone in on the joke. But nevertheless, it does look very scary. Number 1. Manchester Office Poltergeist. This footage was filmed at Castlefield House in Manchester, England in 2012 and was picked up by security cameras at around 3 a.m. It initially shows empty offices and hallways, but then everything suddenly comes to life. First, chairs start moving around by themselves, and then paper starts flying around the room. Computers turn on and off, accompanied by drawers flying open and doors slamming. Shadows fly across the walls. Whilst all of this is happening, to add to this pandemonium, the doorknobs start rattling as if someone is frantically trying to get out. Check out this paranormal cacophony. Is it real or fake? It does look convincing and frightening. Ghosts may be scary, but not all of them are dangerous. While there have been many stories of hauntings involving a spiteful or malevolent spirit, in general it seems ghosts like to be left to their own devices. There are many cases of people actually being assisted by ghosts and even being saved by them, rather than haunted by them. The following are 4 stories where a person was actually saved by a ghost. Number 4. The Grey Man. There's plenty to see in the beautiful small town of Polly's Island in South Carolina, with historic homes, beautiful beaches and ghosts. The most famous ghost in the town is the Grey Man. The Grey Man has been seen for over 200 years, and he is often sighted right before the area is hit with a hurricane. The Grey Man usually appears on the beach, either stepping out of the dunes or waving to boaters from the shore, before vanishing without saying a word. One fisherman spotted the Grey Man in Murrells Inlet, a coastal town about 10 miles north of Polly's Island. He had been out on his boat the entire day, and the sun was beginning to set, and decided to do one more sweep of the inlet for oysters, when he noticed a man dressed in grey, standing alone on the shore, waving to him. As his boat grew closer to the man, he realised he wasn't waving at all. He'd had his hand out as if he was telling him to stop. He couldn't believe what he was looking at, and when he rubbed his eyes and looked again, the man had gone. A few hours later, a powerful storm rolled ashore, pounding Murrells Inlet with heavy winds and lashing rain. The fisherman believes the Grey Man appeared to be warning him to get off the water and out of harm's way. Apparently, the Grey Man had originally set out across the marsh to visit his lover, but had somehow lost his life. Not long after the accident, the deceased man appeared to her on the beach and told her to leave the island immediately. The woman and her family fled town, and a deadly hurricane soon struck the coast. The family survived, as did their coastal plantation. Number 3. The Wife with a Warning. The Chicago Tribune once ran a story about a farmer called Henry Durand. Durand was heading back to his house late in the evening in his horse and cart when the horse suddenly stopped. The animal appeared frightened, refusing to move any further, and was actually trembling. The air suddenly became oppressive, and Durand noticed a faint light beside his wagon, which slowly coalesced into the form of a woman. Durand himself wanted to flee at this point, but he was too scared to even run. The white figure spoke to Durand, telling him that there was danger at home and that he should stay away until the morning. Durand recognized the voice as belonging to his late wife. The figure disappeared as soon as she passed along her warning. Durand headed home and noticed that the window he had left locked had been opened, and he saw muddy footprints inside his house. He carefully walked inside and noticed a piece of string. Instead of pulling the string by hand, he stretched out his umbrella and gave the string a tug with the end of it, which caused a gun to go off. The bullet would surely have hit Durand in the chest if it pulled the string by hand. Durand told the Tribune that it would surely have died if it hadn't been worn by his deceased wife. Number 2. The woman who was dead for 56 minutes. 50-year-old Sonia Burton from Ashington, Northumberland, UK, considers it a miracle that she is still alive. The reason being that she'd had a heart attack and had been dead for 56 minutes. Her day started out just like any other. She went to a job in a bingo hall, but she felt a sudden pain in her chest and collapsed just after her shift had started. Paramedics quickly rushed to the scene and spent the next 56 minutes in the back of the ambulance, desperately trying to bring her back to life while she was being rushed to the hospital. Sonia says that when she was dead, she was visited by her late husband, John, who had died of a heart attack in 2004, aged only 37. Sonia explains that the only thing I remember is my late husband coming to me and saying, "It's not your time, Sonia. Go back to the children." Then I awoke in hospital. Sonia said afterwards that every day I think of how incredible it is that I'm still here. I don't take anything for granted. Number 1. The voice of a dead mother. In March 2015, emergency responders received a call about a car overturned in an icy river. When they reached the scene, they found a woman and a baby in the car. The baby was strapped into a baby seat in the back of the car, which was overturned and hanging upside down in the cold water. This is where things get a little strange. The rescuers entered the water and they heard a cry for help. The 25-year-old mother was clearly already dead, but the officers swear that the voice they heard calling for help belonged to an adult. Officer Jared Warner of the Spanish Fork Police Department was among the first to make it to the half-submerged vehicle. He recounted what happened to the Desert News, saying that after the incident, we all got together to discuss what had happened, where they all agreed that they had heard an adult screaming for help from inside the car. Fellow officer Brian Dewitt was also present on the scene and added that the only people who were in the car at the time were the deceased mother and her child. Another responder, Officer Tyler Beddoes, said that they definitely heard what they did, even if they can't explain how. It wasn't just something that was just in our heads. To me, it was plain as day because I remember hearing a voice. It's also a miracle that the baby Liddy was able to survive. She had been hanging upside down in the car seat for around 14 hours with no food or water. Not to mention the icy river was right below her and the temperatures dropped to near freezing during the night.